All right, recording. All right. We're gonna move on to Epstein and Trump. There's a couple little updates here. So first of all, key witnesses or new witnesses subpoenaed in Epstein files case. Now, if you're anything like me, we need to figure out what the hell subpoena means. Subpoena definition. So it's a summon, right? So ordering a person to attend a court. So that's good. Yeah. So key witnesses are getting sent to court to like testify and stuff. So that's great. So yeah, let's see what's up with this.
Since the Justice Department missed the deadline to release all of the files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, as required by law, not a suggestion, by law. This week, the two House members who led the push to unseal those documents, Republican Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna, asked a federal judge to step in and appoint a special master to ensure all the documents are released. The request comes.
Ro Khanna, he was in that the video Tommy G did about foreign influence in U.S. politics. So yeah, now that I know the name, I'm hearing it more. That's cool. These fucking guys.
After the DOJ revealed earlier in the week that it had only publicly posted about 12,000 documents, but still have more than 2 million to review, meaning they have released less than 1% of the files so far. I don't know if you're good at math. That's basically nothing. And all the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee are demanding the Republican Oversight Chairman James Comer hold a hearing and force Attorney General Pam Bondi to testify about the DOJ's actions or inactions in releasing the Epstein files. Quote, the department's actions and public statements relating to the Epstein files have been conspicuously inconsistent, evasive, deficient, and misleading, heightening suspicions that DOJ is covering up details of...
Oops. The department's actions and public statements relating to the Epstein files have been conspicuously inconsistent, evasive, deficient, and misleading, heightening suspicions that the Department of Justice is covering up details of Epstein's crimes in fealty. What does fealty mean? Fealty. Definition. A feudal tenant... formal acknowledge of loyalty to a lord. Huh. So how does that fit there? Fealty to the white. Oh, so Department of Justice is submitting themselves to the Trump, basically, I guess. Okay. I bet Thomas Massie wrote this.
Epstein's crimes and fealty to the White House. Joining us now is the top Democrat on that committee, House Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Garcia. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us on set this morning. You know, there's the question of the special master, but there's also the question, I've talked to some legal experts on this, that you guys, the Congress could just sue the administration, right? You could take the DOJ to court and say to a judge, they are breaking the law. Make them follow the law. And instead of a special master, which, you know, seems unlikely, but have like an actual lawsuit. Why, would Republicans be on board with that? And why hasn't that happened yet?
So it hasn't happened yet because we'd actually have to have a majority of the House on board for the lawsuit. And so a lawsuit from the House actually has to be first really pushed by the majority or a majority of members. And so we would need support from Republicans to actually get that lawsuit.
Well, all of them but one signed the
right. Still, that was an action that they were forced to do. And so the legal action from the House is absolutely on the table, but so is legal action from outside groups. So there are a bunch of groups right now that are looking at the best way of approaching this. Getting a federal judge involved, which Congressman Connor from, of course, our committee is doing, is a good step and approach. And we've been planning kind of what this rollout on the legal front has been for a while. Right now, the fact that 99% of the Epstein files have not been released to the public from the DOJ is crazy. Yeah. Especially when you think about what's already been, of course, released. I mean, there's been some significant information that's come out to the public. And so this is incredible. I mean, the American public should be just pissed that the DOJ is defying the will of not just Congress, but of the public. The public wants the files released.
Yeah.
And You did have, though, a small victory this week, and along with the Oversight Committee, in succeeding to issue more subpoenas. That obviously requires the cooperation of James Comer, who has to sign off on those subpoenas. They're going to go to the longtime friend and client of Jeffrey Epstein, Les Wexner. He's the former CEO of Victoria's Secret, and Epstein managed his personal finances. There is some really excellent reporting about how inextricably entwined their fortunes were. I'm wondering what you hope to get from that, and also if you can make a little news here, who else you're planning on subpoenaing. I mean, there's a host of other names. Alan Dershowitz. There's Jean.
That name, Les Wexner and Alan Dershowitz, pretty sure I heard something about him just recently. Yeah, Les Wexner. Les Wexner was a part of study group. Here, let's pull it up. Here it is. Okay. So, study group. The mega group was an informal group of influential Jewish entrepreneurs. It was founded in 1991 by Les Wexner and Charles Bronfman, and it just said that Epstein managed Les Wexner's finances, right? The group met twice yearly for philanthropy and Judaism seminars. It is said to have had up to 50 members, including Hollywood director Steven Spielberg. Wexner led the group with Bronfman, and it inspired several philanthropic initiatives such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and support for the renewal of Hillel International. Pro-Israel lobby group. Tried to influence U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. So basically AIPAC, same type of group. 2003, it employed Republican political consultant Frank Luntz to help the group mobilize support for Israel. Under the name Mega, the group is also said to have had contacts with the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad, and to have, which is basically the CIA, if you guys didn't know, and to have served as a vehicle for influence operations in the United States. Jeffrey Epstein is said to have used the group to build up his network of high-ranking contacts in business, media, and politics. Wexner was Epstein's primary financial supporter. So Wexner was giving Epstein a bunch of money, yet later claimed to have known nothing of his criminal activities. Just something to know, guys. Something to know.
Luke Brunel. There's a number of former personal assistants.
There's Donald Trump.
I imagine
Bill
that
Clinton.
lower profile names might be amenable to Comer signing on to subpoenas for them as well.
Absolutely. Look, we have a long list of subpoenas, a long list of folks that we want to actually, of course, talk to.
Who are the next people on those lists?
Yeah, well, let me first get to Les Wexner. This is really important. So Les Wexner is critical. I mean, this is a billionaire
Wait,
benefactor.
so Les Wexner is who they subpoenaed to court? I figured it would be like a victim or something that would actually, like, you know. You think Les Wexner apparently had no idea. He's not going to say anything unless is he being tried?
A few people were involved with the finances more than him. And
Yeah, no, it says witnesses. Les Wexner literally said he doesn't know anything. We just read that. So this is the subpoena that they're so happy about?
of course, led Victoria's Secret, was very involved, essentially paid for much of Epstein's fortune. And we also did a subpoena in that same exact meeting with both Epstein's former lawyer and accountant, the two heads of the Epstein estate. So those three individuals, the reason we subpoenaed them is because the survivors have mentioned their names to us more than any other names. In fact, after the Wexner subpoena vote, I got multiple messages from survivors saying thank you. And remember, Wexner was listed as someone that actually, by Virginia Giuffre, where abuse was happening at his home, and another of the survivors actually mentioned that he actually also did the abuse. And so, look, we want to find out what happened there. As far as people in the future,
did prosecutors ever identify him as a
Okay, then maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe I spoke too soon.
co-conspirator?
So we That is one of the problems, is we don't know because we don't have the access to the files. And we don't know who made the decision to not go after either whether it's Mr. Wexner or other folks. As far as folks in the future, I want Jeffrey Epstein's pilot in front of the committee. I want Jeffrey Epstein's assistants in front of the committee. And so there's a lot of folks that we are pushing. We have been pushing Comer, particularly on Wexner and both Daniel and Richard, who are the two heads of the Epstein estate. We've been pushing to get those names. We finally got them. Quite frankly, because Representative Luna on the other side worked with me, we cut a deal. We moved it forward, and we got some Republicans to vote with us.
On this issue of holding DOJ accountable for not following the law, here's Thomas Massey, Congressman Massey, on Tuesday, where he claims that Trump officials could face criminal prosecution over the Epstein files. Watch this.
Typically, like with contempt, you might refer that to the DOJ, and then the DOJ never prosecutes itself.
And we watched this yesterday. We get the point. There's another thing about Trump that I want you guys to see. So while all this stuff is going on, so there is some breakthrough with the Epstein case. We're getting key witnesses to testify, and at the same time, we're invading Venezuela, and on top of that, threatening to invade Iran, threatening to invade Mexico. So this is the David Pakman Show. Let's see what he has to say.
The Trump administration is unlikely to stop with Venezuela. Trump and the people around him seem to be quickly spiraling into the next invasion. Marco Rubio was asked on Meet the Press, what about Cuba? Is Cuba a problem? And Marco Rubio, kind of read between the lines here, although you don't have to do much reading between the lines. Yeah, Cuba. That could be next.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary? Very quickly.
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
so is that a yes?
Cuba, but I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yes, I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire, internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans. One of the untold stories here is how, in essence, you talk about colonization, because I think you said Dulce Rodriguez mentioned that. The ones who have sort of colonized, at least inside the regime, are Cubans. It was Cubans that guarded Maduro.
All right. So, yes, Cuba is in a lot of trouble, and we may go there next. And Marco Rubio, during the press conference over the weekend with Donald Trump announcing what took place with Maduro, also talking about Cuba. Hilariously, he describes Cuba in a way that makes it sound like the United States.
A disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. They have...
Really is sounding quite a bit like the United States, I have to tell you. Aside from it sounding like he's describing Donald Trump, they're making it pretty clear what the plan is. And Lindsey Graham, just hours ago on Air Force One, saying, Cuba, you'd better watch out.
Could have done it. And as to this commander-in-chief, he did something people talked about doing. You just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies in these countries doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day. And everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
They're thinking Trump is genuinely nuts. This goes back to a foreign policy idea. There is a camp that believes the most valuable trait when it comes to foreign policy is a president that no one can predict, and that makes others be careful, keeps people in line, this sort of thing. But there's another side to that coin, which is a president that nobody can predict means a president we don't trust to do anything with. And as we've seen, Donald Trump just backs out of deals he doesn't like, or says, I don't care if we're in NATO, we're not coming to the defense of this, that, or the other country. And so what they believe is a feature actually is a bug to the detriment of the United States. But they're making it clear. I mean, you got to hand it to Rubio and Lindsey. They want Cuba. Maybe they want Colombia as well. Now, on the bonus show today, we will talk about, after all the oil talk, what's going on with oil prices. Might surprise you. there is a shift in Republican strategy pointing towards 2028, where maybe Don Jr. is being thought of as the heir apparent to Trump rather than J.D. Vance. We will discuss that. And finally, it appears as though Tim Walz is going to be dropping out of the gubernatorial race in Minnesota after the fraud pseudo scandal, and Senator Amy Klobuchar.
That's old news, bro. That's old news. Real quick before we end this one.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Donald Trump says something, and this is, I guess, from a couple of weeks ago.
He's talking about housing because right now it's absolutely...
Well, yeah, he's just trying to say whatever he can. Freaking, it's all a distraction from the Epstein files. So, yeah, let's move on.